Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Enlightning. I'm so happy you're here. Today we're going to learn about a CNCF project called Dex, and Maxime here is going to teach us. Maxime, tell us about yourself, please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for having me today. Uh, my name is Maxim. I am the maintainer of Dex, and I am also a software engineer. And basically, open source software development is just my hobby, and I do it
Oh,
on my free time. Yes, and
wow.
so for me, this is an exciting opportunity to tell all the people more about Dex, to share the idea of this technology with all of you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so, so happy you're here. I noticed you said you're the maintainer. There's only one of you? You're the only one?
There are actually three active
Three?
maintainers as of
Okay.
today.
Uh
Yeah,
huh.
and we all from different companies, and we like have a lot of work to do. And occasionally, so on occasion, or how should I say it, in our free time, and so we help to maintain Dex. So this is it. So and this is also can be an advertisement. So if you want to be a maintainer of Dex or you want to help us somehow to develop the project, you can contact me and I will tell you what we need. So if any of you interested, so it will be helpful if you can work with us.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I have so many questions. Well, first of all, we have Romans here. Hello, Romans. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm those of you who are in chat, please do say hi and where you're coming from. I think part of what I love about streaming is that it's a total global community, and I actually about open source in general. It's so cool. So before we started the show, Maxime and I were talking about KubeCon, and Maxime, you said you have been a CFP reviewer for KubeCon before. What's
Yeah,
yeah? What's that experience like? I guess, and like, what are you looking for when you review CFPs?
so the most challenging part of reviewing is that there are too many great talks,
Yeah.
and you need to decline some of these talks. And this is literally because I accepted a lot of great talks, and after that, I realized that I exceeded the limit, so I need to decline some
Aw.
talks just because. So I need to search for the reason
Uh huh.
because I personally uh, would like to hear the talk, but because of the limit, because the capacity of spots is limited, so I cannot accept everything, every talk.
That's it's. I guess it's a good problem, better than the opposite problem where you're looking
Yeah,
for
of
something.
course.
Matt France here. Hello. Thank you for coming. I have so Dex is a project I'd never heard of or heard about before I came across it. I host another show too called You Choose on the DevOps Toolkit YouTube channel, and so on that show we're trying to cover every CNCF project, and so therefore some things have bled into this show too. So when I have a project that I know nothing about, usually when I look for a guest for a project, I'll say, I might like maybe I already have a friend who knows that project. That's always a good guess because I know it's going to be good rapport and I like that person. Maybe I someone comes highly recommended or there's a but in a project like Dex, I know nothing about the project. I know nothing about the community. So what I do is in the CNCF Slack workspace, I'll go into that workspace and I'll post a message and be like, "Hey, would anyone like to be on my show?" And so Maxime volunteered, and I love this for a couple reasons. Like I love making a new friend. But I love that like your community chose you to talk about Dex, and then I think the question that's buried in all of that is is tell me about Dex. Like what's your maturity level within the CNCF? How long has Dex been around? Nothing too juicy that I want to write down on the whiteboard,
Okay.
but yeah.
So currently, Dex is the sandbox project,
Sandbox. Okay.
and it has been sandbox project for 3 or maybe 4 years already. So
Okay.
yeah, and actually the actual age of Dex is like 8 years or 9 years. So it has been with us for many more years. And
Uh-huh.
if you want, I can tell you the whole story behind Dex and how it was donated to CNCF.
Uh yes. I think yes.
So the origin of Dex is the so originally it was developed by the company named Core OS.
Okay. Okay.
They were developing Kubernetes platforms back in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so a long, long time ago before it became popular.
Okay. It's
Uh,
like a like a operating system for nodes in OpenShift is
uh,
CoreOS. Am I
yeah,
remembering that correctly?
yes, but previously it was the company, and this company
Okay.
was
Interesting.
acquired by Red Hat.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they were developing their own platform like OpenShift, but they were also pioneers. They developed their own platform called Tectonic. It was enterprise
Tectonic.
grade, yeah, Tectonic, like a dance.
Yeah.
So it was a cool, great, and enterprise grade platform. And there were many tools in this platform that we know. So they developed, for example, Flannel. It was their networking plugin. They
Okay.
developed Prometheus separator, and they also developed Dex, and they used Dex in their platform for authentication to
Okay.
authenticate users into their Kubernetes platform. So after the acquisition, uh, so there were many projects that were left without
Okay.
support because in Red Hat OpenShift there was already
Mm.
an authentication server,
Mhm.
so they didn't need another one. This is as far as I know because I was
Okay.
not the part of CoreOS or Red Hat or these great companies. I was studying at university back in. I was not the part of development of Dex. So uh, Dex was left with maintainers
Ah.
from community,
Okay.
and to support this project somehow to help it live in. So we decided. Not I personally, but other maintainers.
Uh-huh.
They decided to donate it to Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It was a good opportunity because with this support we could improve the project even without the support of the big company behind the Dex.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love hearing this kind of story. I have I want to ask you. I'm going to start moving behind the light board, but I'm interested in like your personal journey, like how you came like a lot of people who come on the show and represent a project, they might be working for a company that has an interest in maintaining that project. But I think it's pretty rare for me to have someone on the show like yourself who's doing open source maintaining as a hobby. So what? Yeah, what's your journey to where you are? Like, what made you decide to pick up Dex, and then also like what motivates you to keep doing it?
Um, so I started my open source development journey when I was a junior Python developer. I worked for the small company, a small startup company, and as the bonus, they decided uh, to give me the opportunity to go to the uh, Python conference. It was a
Uh-huh.
local Python.
Ah.
Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
on this conference there was one of the core Python developers, so who is in charge of development of the Python itself, of C Python. And so he, like after his talk during the evening with the beer, he told us his story about how
Uh-huh.
the core Python developers started to contribute to open source projects. And he said like,
Ah.
yeah, it was the person who encouraged me, and he said something like, "I decided to fix something in the standard Python library, and after that, I decided to fix one more problem, and he found himself like changing the C++ code for Python, and he was not a C++ developer. He was just just an ordinary guy who decided to fix something. And
Uh-huh.
for me, so I really admired this way. So I thought for myself that I can, if I join some open source community and I start developing some products, I will be able to improve my skills, to
Ah.
yeah, to have some connections with other great engineers, to learn from them. And this was my idea. And uh, unfortunately, I left my startup company and joined a company a little bigger. And my my former team lead, he asked me about he asked me, "Do you know the storage technology called Ceph?" And I said like, "No, never heard about this." And
Uh-huh.
and he said something like, "We want to migrate all our Ceph installation to the new technology called Rook, but there are some
Uh-huh.
features that we need in this.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you are the person who can help us to develop these features." And I thought like, why not? And this is how I started contributing to open source.
I love it. And then what kept you excited about it to keep doing it, especially if you're not being paid to do it?
The most exciting thing for me was like when I add a feature, I see that
Mm-hmm.
people start using this feature and say many good words about these features. Like, it's so
Ah,
helpful. You solved our problem. You're the hero. That's maybe this part.
that's great. Yeah, helping people feels really good. It's true. I'm almost ready to start learning more. Let me see. We got this, and we got to turn off our distracting names. There we go. All right, we're
Yeah.
ready. Um, I admire your journey, and I admire your that you're keeping up with Dex. Like, do you know, is Dex widely used? Is it widely used, and are people newly adopting it, or is it a matter of like maintaining what the people who are already
Um,
using it?
I would say that this is one of the biggest challenges of every open source product, to
Uh-huh.
understand the audience of the product, because
Uh-huh.
it's really hard to know which company uses your product without collecting the telemetry data. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because you need to encourage people to come to you and say like, yes, we also use Kubernetes, or we also use Prometheus, we also use Dex. uh, for us, it's challenging. So we don't know all the companies that
Mm-hmm.
use Dex for any purposes. Mm, what can I say? When everything's okay, nobody
Uh-huh.
comes. But if something if something breaks in Dex, there are people from
That's how
different
you find
companies.
out. That's how you find out who the users are.
Uh,
um, Code with Sean's here. Hi, Code with Sean. I'm glad you're here. Oh, I can't. I'm glad you're here.
um, I can say that it's great that Cloud Native Computing Foundation helps projects from the
Mm-hmm.
owned by foundation to connect between, because as far as I know, uh, people that use Dex, they are also
Mm-hmm.
using often they also use Argo CD, because Argo
Ah.
CD Helm chart contains Dex deployment.
Ah, okay. Excellent. The fact that you're in the CNCF is the reason that I came to you. So that's I'm I'm a not because I'm a CNCF. I think I'd be like CNCF made me an ambassador because I was talking about CNCF projects as opposed to the other way around. But I'm a CNCF ambassador. Um, so we're here behind the light board. The way I love to start out an episode is to help me understand what the world was like before Dex that caused it to need to get made.
So I think Dex was especially developed for the Kubernetes,
Okay.
because in Kubernetes for a long time there was so there are many ways that you can authenticate users in Kubernetes. You can authenticate them using service accounts, certificates,
Uh-huh.
authentication proxy, and you also can authenticate users by connecting an OpenID Connect provider to Kubernetes.
Um, to authenticate. Are you in? I'm spelling things wrong. I have so many questions right now. For one thing, already. For one thing, I'm a little confused. This is a very silly question, but there's authentication and there's authorization.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then all the time people just say auth. When they say auth, do they mean both of those
Both,
things?
yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. That's
The
number
whole
one
flow,
thing.
the whole flow. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, uh, I spelled it wrong again. I put the in there again. So
Yeah, I can
you're
confuse
talking
you
about
more.
authentication. Okay, good.
I can confuse you more and say that for the most popular authentication standard now, OpenID Connect. So for this, we are using the most popular authorization protocol called Auth2, and this is more this is more confusing.
Okay.
Uh,
So
so, but
so back so I think I want to capture that on the board because it is something that every time I hear either one, I think about the other one. And so I do want to understand more about how they relate. But let's finish this thought about before Dex and Kubernetes, there are many ways to authenticate, and then you listed some of them. Oh, Batwan's here. Hi, Batwan. Hi, developer guy. Batwan says Sigstore also uses Dex, which is
oh
a
yeah,
big
yeah,
deal. Yeah,
yeah.
Sigstore
I
is a
remember.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So what are some ways that people used to use to authenticate?
Um, so the most problematic thing about this that in the world there are many identity providers
Uh-huh.
that can use different protocols to communicate. For example, there are many LDAP LDAP based identity providers or SAML based. Or there are identity provider. You can also use your GitHub as identity provider, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or something like this. And so nowadays, maybe it's not that problematic, but previously they were there were many differences between the authentication flow
Okay.
the most problematic thing is that you cannot connect your LDAP identity provider to Kubernetes. So there is no way to do this.
Okay.
This is
So
what was before Dex.
okay. So no way to connect LDAP. And LDAP stands for hack,
I
something directory access protocol, maybe lightweight
lightweightness.
directory access protocol. Uh, um, and then LDAP, if I understand correctly, is like a directory, like you maintain a directory of people you want to be able to access, and then
Yeah,
that's
yes,
how.
yes, and it's widely used. There are many implementations.
So especially that there's no way to connect using LDAP, and also that there are all kinds of the
Yeah,
chaos that's involved when there's so many different ways.
yes, another problem that you can connect only single OpenID Connect provider to Kubernetes, so there is no way to connect two at the same time.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was like this before the Kubernetes release 1.29. In 1.29, the SIG authentication, so this is a special group that in charge of development of authentication features in Kubernetes. So
Mm-hmm.
they introduced the new feature that now you can connect many OpenID Connect providers to Kubernetes, but back in 2015 it was not possible.
So they're different. So you're talking about there are providers and there are protocols. Like one provider might use several different protocols,
Yes,
or
but I'm talking about, for example, you have two OpenID Connect providers.
Uh-huh.
Google,
Uh-huh.
and something else. I don't know,
Okay.
Google and
GitHub, right?
Auth 0, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, there are identity providers, and you cannot connect both at the same time to
Identity.
your Kubernetes cluster.
Okay. And then you said 1.29. How recently was that?
1.29 was released a couple of days ago, I believe. I'm not sure.
Oh, whoa, okay.
And this is an alpha feature.
An alpha feature. Okay, got it. So I think one thing I want to talk about, there's some terms here that are conflated in my head.
Mhm,
Like so there are identity providers. So I
mhm.
guess let's talk about authorization, then let's talk about
Okay.
authentication, and let's just talk about what authentication is, period. What those two terms are, period, and then that might help me understand a little
Uh,
better what's going on.
I would say that authentication is about to determine who you are.
So this is authentication, not authorization.
This is authentication. So, for example, uh, I don't know, you need to somehow prove that you are yourself. So you can use for this your passport, ID
Okay.
card, driver license. So it will identify you as a person with your name and your age. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is it. So
Okay. And
this is
then
a part.
I've, so we're talking about it from a human perspective. Do you also need to do authentication with processes?
With processes. What do you mean?
With like an application wants to access Cube API, does that application have to prove it is who it says it is, or do only
Um,
humans have to prove it they are who they say they are?
it stays the same for everything, but there are different methods to authenticate yourself. So in Kubernetes, for example, you can use a special token.
Uh-huh.
Um, so in every service, there is a special service account token that
Okay.
identifies your pod or
Okay.
your namespace. And if you
Okay.
use it, you can authenticate to Kubernetes API by saying that I
Okay.
am the pod from the particular namespace. So that can be the case.
That so what are some different, so service tokens is a kind of authentication.
Yeah, but it does not. So tokens, they are not connected to Dex. They are. This is like the Kubernetes thing, but we
Uh-huh.
can still talk about them. Okay,
Okay.
you can add them.
Okay. Service tokens. What are other ways to do authentication?
For example, uh, there are like five components of the control plane of Kubernetes. So you have a Kube API server, and you
Uh-huh.
also have other components like Kube Controller Manager or
Yeah.
Kube
Scheduler.
Scheduler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for like to connect to the Kube API server, you can also issue a certificate,
Okay.
X
Yeah.
509.
Okay.
Yeah, and attributes of this certificate can point to who you are. So the
Mm-hmm.
organization name in the certificate. So in the certificate format, there are two
Mm-hmm.
fields: the
Mm-hmm.
name, the name of the certificate, and
Uh-huh.
organizations.
Uh-huh.
And Kubernetes uses them to identify users. So the name is your name and
Okay.
the organizations field. So this is your groups, points to your groups.
Okay. Excellent. And then the things you said before, like GitHub or Google or LDAP, does that fall under this?
Um, uh, y- Probably no. because so the other way to authenticate is to use OpenID Connect provider.
Okay.
So now GitLab is the OpenID Connect compatible, so you can use GitHub, not GitHub, sorry, GitLab, and maybe also GitHub as OpenID Connect provider. But I believe it was not like this 10 years ago. But now you can use them as OpenID Connect.
Okay.
You can also use uh, authentication proxy.
And that's
Uh,
not part of OpenID Connect. That's a
no,
whole different
no.
authentication proxy.
So yes, imagine you have some proxy in front of Kubernetes API, and
Ah,
this is like reliable proxy, so you can rely that what proxy says to you,
uh-huh.
right, is right. So
Okay. So it does
yeah,
authentication before it even gets to Kube API.
yeah, there are other methods, but these four, I believe this is they are the most common methods. You can also use a token webhook. Token webhook, it's like when you send a token to Kubernetes, and Kubernetes just sends it to like somewhere to check uh, is this token valid or not.
Okay. It checks whether the token's valid. Okay. And then here, let me.
Not only checks that it is valid, but receives the user attribute from the webhook. So webhook says who you are. So Kubernetes goes to webhook with your token, and the like back you receive the your user attributes. So something like this.
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask the best I can. So, service token webhook.
Token, not service, but just token,
Okay.
because it can be any token,
Ah, okay.
any
And then,
random numbers and letters.
so token webhook would probably, my guess is it would teach the Kube API server if you see an access token that looks like this, then make a call out to here and determine whether or not that's a valid token.
Um,
Is that
something
correct?
like something like this. Yes, there is a chain of
Uh-huh.
authenticators,
Uh-huh.
and they prefer to check. For token authentication, there are many methods. For example, service account tokens, OpenID Connect, and token webhooks. They are all about tokens. And Kubernetes
Uh-huh.
first checks whether this token is a service account token. Then it checks
Okay.
that whether it's OpenID Connect token or not, and then it sends token to token webhook, something like this.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, so it was like, and as you can see, there is no way you can connect other identity providers to your Kubernetes cluster other than using OIDC or authentication proxy or to customize uh, it something somehow with token webhook.
Okay. So Kubernetes specifically authenticates using one of these five methods that we talked about.
There are some more, but these five worth to mention.
Okay. One of these methods and then most popular. So you could do it other ways, but these are the most popular methods. And then it might not be related to Dex, but just for my own edification, can we just quickly say what authorization is, how it's different from authentication?
So let me let me find some example. Uh, Imagine you want to go to nightclub, and there is a
Uh-huh.
guard standing in front, and you're
Uh-huh.
showing the guard your passport, like uh, I am girl, and I am like 20, 21 years old. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and the guard
Uh-huh.
knows. So guard has the policy who can come to the nightclub, and he can say like, you cannot come because you need
Uh-huh.
to be 25 years old or more. So this
Okay.
is the authorization moment. So the guard
Ah.
knows that you don't have the right to go to the nightclub because of one of your attributes, because of your age, basically.
So authorization, what determines whether you're allowed?
Yeah, yeah,
And it happens after authentication.
yeah, because to not whether you're allowed or not, we need to see
Know
who
who
you
you
are.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. And when people say off, they just mean this whole process with both steps.
yeah, because after these two steps, you can access the, like you can uh, access what you wanted. So that's
Cool.
yeah. For short, we usually call them authn and auth z.
Oh, wait, what's off in and off Z? Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
and auth means both, and authn means
Does
authentication, auth z
is
means authorization.
Oh, my mind is blown. So is off in, is the N small or capital?
And smaller,
Okay, off
I
in,
believe. Yeah, I believe so. I'm not 100% sure.
off Z. Cool. Okay, I'm sure I've seen those around.
Yeah.
Half of being good at tech is just untangling this sort of thing. Okay. Okay, so maybe you tell me, have I just learned enough background knowledge to understand Dex, or is there more background knowledge I need to have?
I think that's enough. We can talk a little bit more about what is OpenID Connect, but I don't think this is the right part to talk about it now
Okay.
because we can dive too deep.
Yes. Let me look and make sure I'm on the board. Great. So before Dex, there are many ways to authenticate, but there's no way to use LDAP, and there's only one type of identity provider can be used at a time. Those are the two problems that
Yeah,
Dex is
and
solving, right?
not only LDAP, but also SAML, SAML,
Okay.
also capital letters.
And what's that one stand for?
Uh, Probably something. uh, I, actually, I don't remember. Security assertion markup language.
Ah, um, I do my best. I'm not always perfect, but I do my best to not have an acronym that's not spelled out.
Sometimes uh, it's better to only say acronyms because the definition of the words means nothing.
Yeah, yeah, the acronym's way more. Yeah, cider block is like that. No one knows what cider means, but that's okay. It helped. Yeah.
Like
So let's
eBPF,
EBP. Yes, yes.
like
Uh,
Berkeley packet filter. Yeah.
there it is.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah. um, that's actually that should be a game somehow. Like who can? That'd be fun. So now we're going to talk about, before we talk about Dex, we're going to talk about what is OIDC.
Um, where should we start? This is this is not that easy. So uh, probably OIDC is the standard for authentication.
Okay.
So before OIDC, there was OAuth 2, the authorization
Is this the,
protocol.
is this it? Is there,
Uh, no, I don't think that we can put it that way.
I do want to, I would like to list the predecessors because so I'll leave some room for us to add to that. Uh,
Um,
I don't know how
let's
to
say
spell
that
predecessors. I'm finding.
it's not predecessors. Probably did. We can say that OIDC is built on top of OAuth 2
Ah, okay.
framework. This is the better thing to say.
Uh, OAuth 2. Um, what's so the
Well,
auth and OAuth 2 stands for both of the auths together?
um,
Is the O open?
OAuth 2, yeah, probably so.
Oh, yeah.
OAuth 2 stays for open authorization.
Authorization.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now we can just quit and go.
Right.
In this
That's
moment.
funny.
Yeah, I will try to explain you why this is the authorization thing because allows to so it was
Uh-huh.
developed to provide to grant the reliant party. I will explain what is reliant party a little bit later. To grant the reliant party the way or the like rights to know some information about you.
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
you want to install on your smartphone. You want to install some fancy chat application, and when you
Mm-hmm.
install it, it asks you to check your Facebook, like hypothetical Facebook
Uh-huh.
contacts, to add them to this chat application so you can message your friends in this chat. Yeah,
Okay.
and when it asks you, you
Mm-hmm.
go to the Facebook page, you need to log
Mm-hmm.
into your Facebook account, and then Facebook will ask you that this fancy chat application wants you to see your contacts.
Uh-huh.
Is this okay? Will you
Yep.
grant
Mm-hmm.
it this permission? You
Mm-hmm.
need to say, of course, yes, I want this, and
Mm-hmm.
this is WAUS 2.
Okay. Got it. It's authorizing, like if you're using GitHub, for example, it's
Yeah, in this
au-
example, the chat
author.
application, this chat
Mm-hmm.
application is reliant party, like a third party software, and you as
Mm-hmm.
user grant this third party software access to see your Facebook contact list. You're not granting this application your password
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or any data besides the contacts.
Besides, okay. So you're
Yeah.
granting access, not only access, but like limited to only the scope of
Yeah,
what they
also
need.
it is also scoped. This is
Yeah.
the great thing that you can see which parts of your profile this application can access.
Okay. Got it. We have a comment. Thanks for being here, Omri. Omri is asking, is this recorded? And they said, don't forget Pinniped by Tandu, which does a similar
Yeah,
job.
this is also
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great software. We will.
Yeah.
I hope we will be able to cover this. I'm not that familiar with the software, but I know some developers that were in charge of the development of this. So yeah, we will
Yeah.
talk about this later.
I've heard. I've heard great things about Pinniped. And then to answer the first part of the question of whether it's recorded, I see you're visiting from LinkedIn. If you go to VMware Tanzu's YouTube and click the live tab, you'll be able to see this recording there as soon as this is over. Yeah, or even now, I think. Yeah. Excellent. So OIDC is the standard for authentication that's built on top of OAuth 2.
Yeah, because the idea of OIDC is to add the authentication standard on top of the auth 2 idea. So not only grant the permission to see your information, but also so OIDC is about standardizing the way of getting the information about you uh, from the identity provider.
Mm-hmm. So
Probably I missed the missed the explanation.
to get info from identity provider. And that's coming from OAuth 2, but also standardize what information to get to
Yeah,
prove that
yeah.
you're you.
Yeah, because the RFC for WAUS 2 only focuses on the way how to exchange the information between user, reliant party, and the provider of the info. But
Uh-huh.
OIDC focuses on how this information may look, or should look, or must look. We can even say it
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
To be honest, the Dex is not fully compatible OIDC provider because there are compliance tests that you need to pass to be fully compatible, and there are some tests that Dex cannot pass as of today. But
Yeah.
I believe we will fix it in the future. Yeah, because if you have an OpenID Connect provider, you can test it whether it is the real OpenID Connect provider or there are some capabilities missed uh, or required to be implemented.
So you have to pass
So,
the compliance test to be an OIDC provider?
n- like to name yourself an OEDC provider, probably no, but to know that you are the OEDC provider, probably yes.
Okay, yeah. Uh,
Because you can just claim that yes, I am the provider. Prove me, uh, prove me wrong.
you use OIDC to prove. Yeah, yeah. So great. I have a good understanding of that. Thank you. So now here we are. The big question: what is Dex?
So on the website, it says that Dex is a federated OpenID Connect provider.
What does federated mean?
Uh, so Dex is not provider itself.
Okay.
So Dex doesn't have the way to store users or users attributes.
Uh-huh.
Instead of this, Dex can connect external providers and source data from these providers. So Dex doesn't have users, but Dex can go to LDAP identity provider and get the information from it.
Okay. This means it it is not an OIDC provider itself, but it can connect your cluster to OIDC providers.
We can say that this is a OIDC provider, but it doesn't have the user's data inside.
Okay. What help me write the definition? What should, besides it's a federated OIDC provider, help me understand in a definition what the federated part, how to explain the federated part.
So federated means that DEX unifies or maybe connect. Connect will be the better word, I think. This means it connects many different providers together and make them talk in the OIDC protocol, something like this.
So it connects many different OIDC providers together, or many identity providers together?
Identity providers, not OIDC.
Okay.
Different kinds of identity providers. We will talk about this later, which providers DEX support.
To talk in the OIDC protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like this. Because as we discovered earlier, Kubernetes only accept OIDC protocol, nothing else.
So is OIDC a protocol?
No, it's more
No.
the standard.
Okay. OID. Okay, got it.
You can just wipe the protocol word and it will be correct.
Oh, they can talk in OIDC protocol. Is that not right? Talk in OIDC?
Yeah, that will be better. Talk in
Okay.
OIDC.
Okay. Cool. So it's solving, so it's helping to make things like LDAP and SAML compatible, but then it's also making it so you don't have to choose one and only one. You can have several different ways
Yep,
to,
that's it.
cool. Cool. Um, so let's actually, that's worth writing down, I think. So the big benefits, without getting into specifics
Mm-hmm.
yet about how it works or what exactly, uh, which identity providers it works with. So uh, so you can use LDAP or SAML. What group are these also identity providers, LDAP and SAML?
Yep.
Okay. Is it right to say can use most identity providers, including LDAP and SAML?
Mm, okay. Probably so, but I'm afraid that people can come and ask that you said during the stream that you support many providers, but not ours. Let's add
uh,
the support.
do you want me to write many instead of most? Are you there? Do you want me to write many instead of most?
Yeah, that's okay.
And so currently, you said the latest version of Kubernetes that just came out includes an alpha way to connect more than one identity provider at once. Is that true?
Yes, but on all the providers must speak OIDC.
Ah,
Must talk in OIDC. So for
oh, okay.
LDAP and SAML, uh, DEX is still the solution you may use.
And then to a Kubernetes cluster? I think what we didn't say in the definition is that it's Kubernetes specific, right?
I Probably it's for the best because Dex is not Kubernetes specific. You can use it as
Ah,
a generic purpose OIDC provider.
uh-huh.
I want to say that you misspelled the word OIDC, and Dex is affiliated ODIC provider.
Oh, dear. How many?
And
Oh, Open Identity Connect.
yeah,
Somewhere in there, I switched it around. Open Identity. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh, okay, I got it right up there.
yes, of course, everything's
Okay,
fine.
cool, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, as people in the chat pointed that Dex is not the only solution. There are many providers that also have this capability to connect other providers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I would say that the greatest feature of Dex is that Dex is just simple. So
Okay.
because of its simplicity, we can say that Dex is lightweight. So it's really just a single binary in Go. Like the weight of the compiled binary is like 70 megabytes or something like this. So it's not that big. Yeah, and the structure of
Mm-hmm.
the Dex's database is not complicated at all. And because this is not complicated, Dex can use different solutions to store the data. For example, Dex can use SQL database to store the data, like PostgreSQL, MySQL, or SQLite.
Okay.
Yeah, all these great solutions. And besides it, Dex can also use a key value store like etcd to store the data,
Mm-hmm.
or even Dex can use a Kubernetes as the storage to store the data in custom resources.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is because the structure of the database is the simplest, I would say.
Um,
Yes, yes, and this is the great feature actually. If you want just to authenticate users in your Kubernetes cluster, you don't need additional complexity like a database. You can store data right in Kubernetes, which is actually cool. And another great thing about Dex is that Dex has the great abstractor called connector inside the code.
okay, let me make sure I have this before we move on.
Okay,
Dex,
okay.
so what differentiates Dex is that it's simple and then it's lightweight. And
Yeah,
so this how it comes from a simple database structure, and it can
yeah.
also use key value storage. And so basically, because of the simple database structure, that's why it can use key value
Yes,
storage, and
yes,
why,
yes.
okay, and
Yeah,
why the data can be stored in Kubernetes custom
yep,
resources.
yep.
Um, and then what's the next thing you're saying? Is it part of this or is it something new?
No, so probably yes, because this is another great feature I wanted to mention. The third one is that
Okay.
Dex has the abstraction like an
Mm-hmm.
interface named connector, And this is easy to add new connectors to Dex. You need to implement like a couple of methods, like 4 of them, and there is your new connector. Unfortunately, there is no way to use plugins for Dex yet, but this is one of our great plans for the future to give users the opportunity to use to develop their own connectors as plugins. So now this is the only way to add new connectors to contribute to Dex, but this is easy.
Okay. So tell me, again, Dex has an abstraction called a connector that does what?
So connector is the like connector connects Dex with the identity providers, with the
Okay.
upstream identity providers. For example, we have OIDC connector, LDAP connector, SAML connector, generic auth2 connector, different connectors.
Um, OIDC, auth2,
Yeah,
LDAP,
yeah,
SAML,
and many more. Let's put it that way.
and many more.
Yeah,
And then what makes this connector good is that it's easy to use.
because this is just abstraction that aged well.
Cool. But I can say easy to use. You feel good about that,
Easy
those
to
words?
develop, not easy to use, easy to develop.
Ah. So
And probably to use, but
the
I didn't think about this.
but I'm like usually better at spelling, but today's develop, develop. So this means easy to develop means that if you want to, like, why would you need to develop an LDAP connector? Because it
Uh,
already exists. So
Probably you want to add your custom
so
connector
easy.
to,
Oh, okay. So easy to develop a new connector.
yeah.
Okay. So cool. So I think that's worth writing down. So is that common for like a company to have like a specific um, identity provider that needs its own connector?
It should so it should not be the identity provider. For example, you can develop something like file connector and read your users from the file. This is also
Uh,
possible. Or
ah,
develop like I don't know, a database connector or HTTP connector or something like this. So it's like it's only limited by your imagination.
okay. So therefore, develop your own file connector,
Or anything.
database.
Yeah, some providers may have some specific features. For example, we have OIDC connector and we have dedicated Google connector.
Ah,
Despite Google being OIDC compatible, we still have the dedicated connector for this because of the features, additional features that Google has. Yeah,
cool.
that's why.
Though, yeah. Those of you who are watching now, what are you currently using for your identity provider for Kubernetes? Yeah. So what else do you want to tell me about?
What else? I don't know. We can discuss more deeply the thing how you can authenticate the user, actually authenticate the user with OIDC provider, because this is the interesting. The idea of it is just interesting. The
I
whole
love it.
yeah, the whole idea behind identity providers is that
Uh-huh.
you uh, do not encourage a user to
Mm-hmm.
write their credentials somewhere else. Only have a single web form, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to type your credentials always in this form into your identity provider's form and nowhere else. And you can additionally protect your credentials with a second authentication factor, uh, or with you can just replace your password with some physical device like a YubiKey or something like this, so you don't
Uh-huh.
need to type your password. Yeah, so these capabilities, they are usually implemented by providers itself, and two great things. First thing is security, that you users only type their credentials to their providers. And the second thing is that applications, like third-party applications, reliant party we talked about before, they do not need to implement all the complicated things. They can just use some provider for authentication and don't implement everything by themselves.
Okay, I will need you to repeat that. I'm sorry. So the authentication goals, the first one is
Not authentication goals, but having the authentication provider goals, I would say.
okay. Also, we have a comment. So VMware ID is an identity provider, for example. Cool.
Actually, I'm not not familiar. Uh, I,
SATIO.
I want to ask for the for the help of the chat to answer
Yeah.
this question.
I'm not sure actually, even if it's a question or a statement. Maybe they were telling us instead of
Oh,
asking. Yeah.
sorry.
Uh, okay. So the goals of authentication provider should be that you only type your credentials one time.
Yeah, you not one time, but to one. You send your credentials to a single place.
Okay. So credentials are sent to a single place. You're not sending it to a bunch of different systems around.
Yep, yep. This is more secure, even in terms of people engineering. So it's harder to trick you with the
Uh-huh.
fake form and steal your credentials because of this. Yeah, you know that you
What?
only need to authenticate through, for example, Google. Yeah. So
Cool. And then the second one I kind of totally missed because I was absorbing the first one. So the second
uh,
one is what?
the second one is that third-party applications do not need to implement all authentication features.
I don't understand. The third party applications
It's, for example,
are
your own application.
uh-huh.
For example, this fancy chat
Uh-huh.
application you installed on your phone, it
Uh-huh.
it doesn't need to implement the two-factor authentication or anything like this. It can just use some identity provider as the source of the user data.
Is an identity provider the same as an authentication provider?
We can say it that way. For me, it's the same. If you want, we can switch to identity provider.
Yes, because that's what we've said the whole time, and I
Yeah,
keep
yeah, of course.
need
It's
to switch it around. I think that's the way to do it. Okay. Okay. Identity provider goals. Third-party applications can use an identity provider.
mhm.
In okay. That I understand. Like Like I
There is
can
a
authenticate to an application using my Gmail. We can press Google to
yeah.
authenticate. Like,
This is the third thing that we need to mention, that you can reuse a single provider across different applications. So basically, I think you can
okay,
connect.
yeah, or maybe should it be it and there? Okay, we'll make it a third one. Why not? So therefore, an identity can be reused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool, awesome. And now, so now we're back to this question: how do you authenticate a user using
Yeah.
an OIDC provider?
Yeah, the most common, there are flows or grants. There are many different ways of how you can get the token from OpenID Connect provider. We usually call them grants. It's like the how to grant you the permission or the token. So the first one called auth code, auth code flow or auth code grant.
Okay, with OIDC. And there are different flows.
Yeah, flows or grants. Uh, I think personally I prefer flows because flow is um, for me it's much more understandable, much more clear.
So many flows, and also the goal is to get an OIDC token.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How you can get the token? Uh, the way how you can get the token.
So a flow, the goal of a flow is to receive an OIDC token, right?
Uh, yeah, yeah. Let's say it this way.
Okay. So one flow types.
Yeah, because Dex support many of them. Uh, the first one is called auth code.
AUTH.
Yeah,
Auth what?
code.
Code. All one word? Two words?
CODE. Code.
Is
This is
it
two different words.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's auth
Uh,
code?
so can we draw a diagram together? What do you
Yeah,
think?
that sounds fun. Let's do it. I'm drawing over my
Okay,
face
let's
even.
draw a person.
Okay.
Yeah. This person goes to an application, a third-party
Uh-huh.
application or relying party application. Can we draw it with an arrow? Like
Yes.
user goes to and yeah. Oh, this is the
AP.
oh wow.
There we go. They have an
The,
application, and then they're going
yeah,
to the application.
yeah, this way. And application redirects user, and so it asks user to go to identity provider for
Okay.
yeah.
Go to. So is
So
there
it's
going to be a
like
lot of interaction here? Should I put
no,
these
no,
further apart?
only three things: user, third-party application, and the identity provider.
Okay.
Uh, so users then goes to identity provider.
Okay.
I think I need to screen these pictures and put them into Dex documentation or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to here.
So user basically so types credentials, authenticates.
Okay. Okay. I just need more space. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
redraw. I'm sorry. I can get this right. So we have our
Yeah.
user.
Because this is an art, I understand. Yeah, feel free.
This is my craft. And then we have our application.
Yeah. Who we are to prevent artists
Yes.
from the
And this is
success.
our and this is our identity provider.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I'm like, the user wants something. Give me.
yeah.
Or
Access.
wants access. Yeah,
Yeah,
request. Actually, I liked the word give me. I'm putting it back. Give me access.
yeah. Just give me.
And then I haven't used blue yet. Give me access. And then the app says authenticate.
Yeah,
It's such a long word. Authenticate.
you can just use the auth.
Oh yeah, auth in.
Yeah,
You taught me. That's the
that's why we invented these short names.
Okay, the app says authenticate.
Yeah,
And then the user goes to the preventing give me identity.
yeah. With the login and password, user goes to the
Give me token, right?
no,
No.
not the token.
Okay. Let's
Not
just
yet.
say
Not
not
yet.
give me.
Not yet.
Okay, okay. So let's do this. Let's do so ID password. So that now that goes here with an ID password,
Mm-hmm.
and then the identity provider returns with what?
Returns user to the Reliant party application. It's like a 32 redirect. So it returns user to the third-party application with the code. It's not the
So the
token.
okay, so the identity provider is now talking all the way to the application.
No.
No.
This is like redirecting. So you are not talking directly. So they're not talking together directly. But
Uh-huh.
instead, they use a web browser of the user to
Uh-huh.
redirect the user to
Uh-huh.
the Reliant Party web page.
Oh, well, how do I draw that? So the identity provider is able to give the application just like a yes. Just say yes, they are who they say they are.
Mm, Not
No.
right now.
Okay. Tell me again what's happening. I'm sorry, I'm slow
Uh,
to get it.
you can return, so to draw this properly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, probably you need to draw an arrow from identity provider to user,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and with the word code, because identity provider give
Code.
user the code,
And
and
by code,
code is just something.
okay.
Uh, yeah, then user gives
Uh-huh.
this code to uh, uh, to third-party application. Yeah,
Okay.
and this time third-party application goes directly to identity provider,
Okay.
like directly, and
Uh-huh.
exchanges this
Uh,
code for a token.
Oh, I love it. And now the oops, token.
Yep. And now this third-party application can act on behalf of our user.
Okay.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah. Cool. So this is awesome. You did a great job. So code, code, code. I just want to like say those are the same thing. Awesome. Wow, that was fun.
Yeah, and there are many more of these grants that you can use. The most fun of this, my
Uh-huh.
favorite one is the device code grant. It's like, for example, if you're a user and you have a web
Mm-hmm.
browser, we already know how to authenticate the user. But how to
Mm-hmm.
authenticate your vacuum cleaner, for example, or your
Oh.
iron, or your, I don't know, uh, any smart home device.
I went
There
to
is
buy a
also a
new
special thing.
electric toothbrush the other day, and I was so annoyed that I couldn't find one that didn't connect to the internet. Like nobody needs to know my toothbrushing habits.
Yeah, probably to connect it to internet, you need the OpenID Connect provider that supports device code grant.
I love that. So we won't go through the code unless you want it. I could try to draw it somewhere. But so like,
Probably the um, device grant is the most problematic, I would say.
okay,
Um, let's.
a human.
I'm afraid that we don't have enough space to draw it.
Yeah. Device code. I want to, we can,
We can just write the names of these grants
yeah.
because there is also so device code is for vacuum cleaners and home appliance.
Uh, to auth edge devices. Is
Yeah,
that?
I missed the time when we started to call home appliance edge devices. Okay, but yeah,
I,
this is about edge devices. Yeah, so the third one, we can also write this down, but this is already deprecated because this flow is exposed to many attacks. This flow is called implicit flow,
okay.
and implicit flow is like this. Like the code flow, but instead of the code, identity provider returns you a token instead of the code.
Returns a token. It's with, okay.
Yeah, this is
Th
required.
there are lots of kinds of tokens, you said, right?
So in this flow, it returns the token, so the one called access token.
Okay.
But I don't think you need to specify it. That's okay to leave it just token.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, too late,
oh.
unless you want me to delete it.
uh, The most problematic thing about implicit flow is that if you look into your browser history, you will see all the tokens you received from your identity provider. So that's
Ah,
why it is exposed to different attacks. Yeah.
ah.
So it's not recommended to use this flow anymore. Uh, the one that we probably should mention is the refresh token grant.
A
It
fresh
it
token grant?
refresh, refresh,
Refresh.
refresh token. This is a special kind of token that you can use to retrieve new token from your identity provider. I will tell you how it works when you finish.
Use a token to get a new token. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
so as you can see, authentication code flow is complicated. Not that
Mm-hmm.
complicated, but still it requires some interactions from the user. So you
Uh-huh.
need user to go to identity provider and take part in all these redirects chain. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and for like to prolongate the previously gained token, there is a special thing called refresh token. So when you authenticated with auth code flow,
Mm-hmm.
your provider may return you, if you requested it, your provider may also return, give the reliant party not only token, but also a refresh token. And then
Okay.
when your token is expired,
Mm-hmm.
the reliant party without
Uh-huh.
you can go to the
Uh-huh.
provider with the refresh token and get the new token.
Oh. So
So
this
you don't need to authenticate one more time. I don't think you need to add this, or
what
probably you can.
I'm just adding the word reliant party.
Yeah. Oh,
And
great.
because you've used it enough that yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
Third
important to
party or reliant party, because this party relies on the identity provider. That's why it is called reliant party.
reliant party.
Yeah.
Cool. Fun. So we have this much space. And also I am going to you don't need this up here anymore. Is there anything else? This one's kind of reserved for my space, my head, so I can look at you unobstructed. Is there anything else you'd like to add in here? Or like what does Dex have to do with this flow, the flow types? How about that
Uh,
question?
so because Dex is not tied to Kubernetes, it's as I've said before, the generic purpose provider. So people may use Dex to authenticate their devices or use, for example, refresh tokens for their CLI tools. Like, for example, you can use kubectl, kube control tool, to
Mm-hmm.
authenticate into Kubernetes with refresh tokens, and it will work
Okay.
offline without your asking you for authentication, which
Okay.
is actually cool. We can fill this empty space with a big heart, for example.
A big heart? Yeah,
Like this
I'm
one.
happy. I'm happy to do it, but another idea, if you want it to be informative, is you've said a couple times like what Dex has coming up in the future. So we could
Mm-hmm.
like capture those here if you want to put like future plans.
Okay. Okay. There are some
Here,
great features.
but let's make sure it's important. We'll still
Well,
get
thank
a
you so much.
hard on the board for you. Yes, a
I
couple
like
of
when
them.
my
Okay.
ideas see my ideas implemented.
That's what got you into open source, right? Okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about the future.
Uh, so my
Cool.
dream for many years, my dream is to implement plugin system for Dex.
Oh.
So people can write and develop their own connectors and share them. Uh, this is my dream, and I don't know when I have time to work. So if anybody interested in adding plugins to Dex, adding customization, please write me, and we can do this together, because it will be much faster with the help.
Add plugin system to Dex, and that will make the connectors easier to use. Tell me what the plugin system would do.
Yeah, for connectors. So plugin for connectors. So I want people to be able to develop their own connectors and share without rebuilding Dex on their site.
Can develop and share connectors, or just share connectors?
Develop and share.
Cool. Awesome.
And the next big feature we are dreaming about is the so the middleware layer for Dex.
Okay, middleware. And what's that mean? I mean,
So when
in
you're
practice.
speaking with other identity providers,
Uh-huh.
you may, so for example, OIDC connector, this connector
Mm-hmm.
is too specific. So not too specific, but too general. So sometimes it needs to be specific
Mm-hmm.
uh, and to talk with some fancy new OpenID Connect IDP we've never seen before. And middleware layer will make it easier to talk with uh, other providers to customize user, I don't know, claims, attributes. So it's also the thing that we need for customizing the way how Dex speaks with other providers.
Does it make connectors more easily customizable?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great
Okay.
summary.
Makes connectors customizable.
There are many
Sweet.
great ideas of how to implement this, and the thing we are waiting for is just we need to agree which approach we want to go with.
Okay.
This was what blocks us, but this also what we want to implement in the future. Yeah, so this is it.
This is it. This is it. I'm going to recap. If anyone there has questions, please do ask them now. And I'm going to recap everything we've talked about to make sure I have a decent understanding. And then we'll say goodbye. Does that sound good to you? Yeah? Okay. So before Dex existed, and Kubernetes, there's many ways to authenticate before, like I guess, to the Kubernetes API. But there's no way to do some popular things like LDAP or SAML, which are two different identity providers. And there's also, you can only use one type of identity provider at a time. So once you've said, I'm using this type, you can't also use a second type. So then we needed to we needed for my because I'm pretty green, we needed to back up a little and talk about authentication and authorization, which both together are just called auth. So if someone says auth, they mean both. If someone says auth in, they mean authentication, and if they say auth z, they mean authorization. So that opened up a whole new world for me. Thank you. And so authentication means you have to prove that you're you. And so there are lots of, that's where the identity providers come in. They're going to help people prove that they are indeed who they say they are. Also, they can help processes prove that they are indeed who they say they are. So for people and robots. So this, you named five of the most popular methods, which would be service tokens, X509 certificates, which are often called digital certificates or just certificates. OpenID Connect, so we use that acronym OIDC all over this board. So some examples, so OpenID Connect providers, examples, we did GitHub and GitLab, but my understanding is there are many of these in the world. You can use an authentication proxy, which is where the software that does the authentication is outside of Kubernetes, and you have to go through that software before you can get to the Kubernetes API. you count on that proxy to do the authentication. Or you could use a token webhook, which puts the logic of when to call out to somebody within the Kubernetes API itself. And so that's authentication. And then we talked about authorization, which means, so authentication is like, you are who you say you are. And then like, okay, if it is you, Max, are you allowed? Like, okay, you are, and you say you're Max and you are Max, but Max is not on my list of allowed
Yeah,
people. So you're you're out of here. Or yeah, so that's the authorization step. And so then what is OpenID Connect? What is OIDC? So that's the standard for authentication. So the standard of whether you're allowed, that's built on OAuth 2. And so OAuth 2 is open authorization 2, and OAuth 2 is the one that's doing it's the one getting permission. The authorization is the permission it's getting from the identity provider to use to prove that you're using that identity provider. But also the OIDC, it's a standardization, so it's also standardizing what shape that information's in. So different, so it can be no matter which OIDC, no matter which identity provider is being used,
yeah.
you're giving
This
and
is
receiving information the same way.
this is the hard block. uh, so the authorization moment in this part is when
Uh-huh.
there is a third-party application and the user says identity provider that it's okay to give the information to this
Uh-huh.
third-party application. So user authorizes this third-party application. So this is where the authorization moment happens.
Got it. And so but you have to, if you want to be declared OIDC compatible as a technology, you have to pass compliance tests.
Yeah, you would better to pass. Yeah.
So with you can say you are, but so now here we are to Dex, our topic today. Dex is a federated OIDC provider, a federated OpenID Connect provider. So that means it connects many different identity providers together so they can talk in OIDC. So with Dex combined with Kubernetes, that means with Kubernetes, you can use many different identity providers. And with Kubernetes, so you can use now LDAP and SAML with Kubernetes. And you can connect more than one identity provider at a time to your Kubernetes cluster. So those are the big benefits of Dex. But then the chat mentioned, and you mentioned, like there are a lot of tools in the space that do this. So what differentiates Dex from the other tools that do access? And Dex is simple and lightweight. And part of what makes it so simple and lightweight is that it has a super simple database structure. So you can back it up with many different database types. You could also use key value storage. The data can also be stored in Kubernetes resources itself. And
Uh,
then, yeah.
I wanted to add that Dex lacks many features that fully featured identity providers have, but uh, the lack of the features for Dex is the feature. That's why it's simple,
uh, um,
because there are not
so,
many features implemented for Dex.
not many features by design.
We can say it that way. Only
uh,
essentials.
um, we'll say it that way. Um, only essentials keeps it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So we, excellent. And so it's simple and in lightweight. And then another thing that helps with its simplicity, it has this abstraction called a connector that connects Dex to different identity providers. And these, so examples are OIDC, OAuth2, LDAP, SAML, and many more. The connectors themselves are easy to develop. So if you want to develop your own way to connect OIDC to anything, you can develop your own file way to connect it to a file. You can develop your own way to connect it to a database or anything within your organization or your home lab that you wanted to connect it to. So then we talked about like identity providers generally, like what's the goal of a good identity provider? And so we want it where credentials are sent to one and only one place. The second one is that the third-party applications, aka the reliant party, they can use the identity provider. And then the idea also is that the identity provider can be reused. So there are many different ways, there are many different flows, also called grants, where how to authenticate a user with OIDC. But the goal in the end is for the user to get to receive the OIDC token, or I guess the application. Really, the goal is for the user to access what they want because that token was given to the reliant party, right? So we talked about lots of different flow types. We only had space to draw out one, which was very, very fun. So we wanted to authenticate this human to this application. So the human's like, hey, give me access. And the application is like, I need to authenticate you. And then the human goes to identity provider and says, I need, and gives their ID and password. And the identity provider, if that's successful, gives the human a code. The code goes to the application. The application takes that code, sends it to the identity provider, and like, okay, everything looks good. And then that's what makes the identity provider give the token to the
Yeah,
application. And now the user can use it. Good job. Look what you've taught me. You've created, you've done such a good job. So then so that's the authentication code flow. There's a more complex flow for a device code. So if you want to authenticate an edge device, like a vacuum cleaner or an electric toothbrush, apparently, you could do that with a device code.
if you can buy some on the marketplace, yeah. If you find such a brush, you can authenticate it.
You can't find not a brush like that. I had to work to find a dumb electric toothbrush, but I did. Um, and then there's an implicit flow that's deprecated, but it returns the access token itself instead of the code in the first place. But the problem with that is that it would get those access tokens would be available in the browser history, so you shouldn't do that. There's a refresh token where you with your token, you're also given a refresh token. So then when that first token expires, then the refresh token can go straight to the identity provider without having to go through everything we went through before to keep
The,
it authenticated.
there are also flows we didn't
Uh-huh.
mention today, but this is okay. We can like type somewhere that.
Some flow types.
Yeah.
That's a lot of software is making sure you never say anything absolute. So then we talked about the future and your personal dream to add a plugin system to Dex. So if there's anyone out there who's curious about contributing and getting into it, this is a great. What would be good skills for them to have? You said you got in because you're a Python developer. What?
No,
No.
actually, when I started contributing to open source projects,
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, but I picked Go project
Uh-huh.
mostly, and because of this, now I'm Golang
Okay.
developer or kind of
Uh-huh.
Golang developer. And for people to develop features for Dex, they only need to know Golang and to be aware of what is OIDC stuff and probably what is
Okay.
Kubernetes also.
Okay. Kubernetes, OIDC, Go. If that's you, reach out. Um, uh, so the dream is to add a plugin system to Dex, and Dex is a labor of love. There's no one being paid, right, to maintain Dex. Everyone, all the
Um,
maintainers are doing it as a hobby. Is that true?
uh,
I know you are.
yes, and but we have great support from Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So this
Uh-huh.
I can say them thank you for helping us, for giving us so much support.
That's wonderful. That's great. I'll pass that along to the people I know there. So the dream would be to add a plugin system to Dex so people can develop and share connectors. And then another goal is to add a middleware layer to Dex, which will make those connectors customizable for specific use cases. And that's everything. How does that feel?
Yep.
Is there anything you want to add?
Um, only I want only add thanks to all the people who were with us today. Yeah, really appreciate help and questions and messages from the chat also.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. We're going to say goodbye. I think I neglected to mention this, but we end the show by a little dance. So I'm going to play the intro music. It's just your head and shoulders, so you can just move your shoulders around a bit. Oh, and we have someone who says they'd be happy to connect. So that's wonderful. We'll be happy to contribute to Dex. So woo, thank
Yeah,
you, Omri. That makes
yeah.
me very, very, very
I
happy.
am. I have a pen. I'm ready.
And a thank you from me, Rand. You've been here the whole time. Thank you for watching. So we're gonna dance our goodbyes, and thank you everyone for watching today, and thank you for those who watched the recording. Have a yeah, yeah. Just wave to the music. You got it. Bye everyone. Thank you. I'm gonna wait till the bass drops. Right here we go. There it is. Bye.